Hi everyone, my name is Susie.
And my name is Thomas.
And let's get right into the case.
Movie.
The case? The movie. Yeah.
Let's start yapping about the movie.
I'm gonna include that.
Please don't.
I will.
Promise you do that.
Due by 11:59.
Louis Bloom is a great businessman. He likes to steal stuff and then sell it.
Huh.
Yeah. Great.
I mean,
Innovative. No one has ever done that.
Never.
No. But he's educated. He's smart. For example, one night, dark, near a train track, he stood there cutting down the fence wire. And there's a car that pulls up to him and it's flashing the headlight at him.
Yeah.
So he doesn't know who's there. And he's covering his eyes. And a person walks out and slowly walks towards him. It's the security. And then the security's screaming at him, "What are you doing? Like, you shouldn't be here." And Louis, he also goes by Lou. Lou drops his stuff, puts his stuff away, and he's like, "Oh, sorry, I didn't know that this was a private area and I shouldn't be here."
Obviously, I mean,
Yeah. And
it happens to anyone.
slowly is walking up to the security, and the security guy's like, "Give me your ID so I can look you up." And so he pulls out his wallet and walks up to the security and is about to hand him his ID. And he sees the security watch. Next thing we know, Lou beats up the security guy and takes his fucking watch and just drives off.
Sounds like a great business transaction.
Yeah. Lou's driving off and there's a cop that's right behind him. It passes him, so he gets off. But he's wondering, why is there a cop? Anyways, he sees that the cop pulls over in front of him and there's a car crash. Lou pulls up in front of the cop car and walks out to see what's going on. And as he's walking towards the scene, he sees that there's a news station also pulled over. And they started pulling out the camera and just running towards the scene and starts recording it. And they just start recording the burning car and just records in close proximity a woman just being dragged out by two cops out of the car.
What the fuck?
That's burning. And Lou's confused. He's wondering what the cameramans are doing. And he talks to the cameraman and asks what he's doing with the video that they just recorded. And he asks if they're hiring because he's a freelancer for right now. And so
he doesn't want to maintain his turn position.
The cameramen are pissed because they're in a hurry. They're trying to get to the next scene, and all they said is "fuck no." And so Lou's like, "Damn, okay," and the car speeds off to the next accident. The next day, Luz is watching the news and he saw the exact video clips that he saw the cameraman shooting last night. And so later on, he decides to steal a really nice bike and sells it for a camcorder and a police scanner.
I feel like this is about to get interesting.
Lou is listening to the police scanner in his car late at night and he hears a report. So he decides to pull up to the scene in front of the cops and there's just a man sitting on the sidewalk and he just starts recording the man with the cops around him like all up in their space. And so the policemen are telling him to get out or he's going to get arrested. And so Luz backs up and he just drives away. Now this keeps happening for the rest of the night. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's just all up in the policeman's face, all up in the victim or all up in the scene. And he's just trying to get a good footage of the scene. But he's new. He doesn't know what he's doing. And so finally he walks up to the cameraman and he's just watching the cameraman and just learning from the person who's recording the scene. Lou starts wandering around and there's a policeman that's telling Lou to get back because he again has gone way too far and way too close to the victims and the scene. And so the cameraman is angry at Lou because again Lou has just wasted the ability for the cameraman to get a good footage. So the night is not going very well for Lou, and so sometimes later, Lou walks into a news station, and he's walking around just exploring the station. He doesn't know where he's going, and he's taking everything, he's hearing everything, he's seeing, just learning as much as he can. And then he walks up to a woman by a desk, and he said he has the video footage. And so the woman just told him that he needs to go down the hall and on to the right, and he should be able to just put his video there. He walks towards that direction and see a woman and a man sitting in a room staring at a screen. And so he doesn't know what they're doing, but the woman asks who he worked for and what footages he has. Lou tells her he has a footage of a man who was shot multiple times, laying on the ground and bleeding. And so apparently what happened was that he was shot during a carjacking, and he says that he has better views since he was much closer to the victim and to the scene. Apparently there was a speeding through, and the man was shot, and again, he says he has really good footage. In this scene, Nina is seeing just a man on the ground with white cloth on the right side of his neck with just blood everywhere, and the paramedics are just trying their best. Nina is very impressed with the footage, and so she calls in a man named Frank. He's the editor, and Frank walks in, and they play the scene back in front of him again. She's the director of the
of the news channel.
I think so, yeah.
Whatever.
And she wants the video to be shown on to the TV, even if it's gruesome, because again, it sparks conversation.
Views, clicks,
Exactly.
accuracy,
Yes.
Logan Paul.
That was a success for Lou. And so after the whole bargaining, Nina tells Lou that he should get a better camera and next time get interviews with the victims or the witnesses, just telling him tips and how he can make more money. Important thing that Nina mentioned is to make it gruesome and think of it as a woman screaming with her throat cut.
The fuck?
Pretty much what she wants is a scene, especially if it's a woman screaming with her throat cut. For the scene that Lou just did, the man laying on the ground, he got paid $250. So later on, Lou is watching the news channel intently on the TV, and he knows that his video clip is going to be on there. And again, he sees his footage on the news being reported. At this point, Lou has found his new passion and a career, which is to sell video footages. So a couple of days later, Lou is all dressed up, all polished, and he's sitting at a restaurant booth, and there's a man that's running towards him. It looks like he's late. That man sits down and he starts introducing himself. He's like, "Hey, I'm Rick, sorry about being late, blah blah blah." And Lou's like, "You're good." He's acting all confident, all businessman, like he knows what he's doing. So it appears that Rick is looking to be hired by Lou.
Ooh.
And Lou is interviewing him for a job for his business that he has. It's a startup business. So, again, Rick doesn't know what the job is because there was no job description that was posted. And Lou is saying that it's a fine opportunity for a lucky someone. This impresses Rick, and so he says he'll do anything for the job. Because of that, Lou wants him to start tonight.
I wonder what the job is.
So Rick is asking what Lou does, what his business is, and he tells him that he runs a successful TV news business. He didn't want to mention it because he films footages, and it kind of has a mixed signals. Lou says he'll hire Rick. Rick's job is to listen to emergency radio, watch his car, navigate, and also learn police codes. Rick is impressed with what Lou does, and so he asks how much is the pay. And Lou's staring at him like he doesn't know what to say, and so he says, it's an internship. It's a learning opportunity for you, my man. And so Rick is confused. He says he needs at least a little pay because he doesn't have any more money right now. And so Lou's thinking for a second, and he looks around and said, "Fine, I'll pay $30 per night." Rick takes the deal because he is at a desperate point. Night comes, and Lou and Rick are sitting in Lou's car, and Lou starts training Rick the police codes, and Rick is learning as much as he can. They're just waiting and waiting for the police scanner to hear some juicy reports. They finally hear news. They speed off. Rick is navigating Lou to the scene while Lou is just speeding and speeding so that he can be the first one to get the best footage. During the whole speeding, Lou's getting anxious and frustrated because Rick is misdirecting Lou. Rick is saying, well, maybe if you don't go too fast, then I can finally tell you where to go, but you're just speeding. And so the tensions is starting to boil, but finally they get to the scene and there's already other cameraman there. And they told him that the ambulance had already left and he's just too late. Lou's speeding to the next scene because there's more. There's always more. Once he got to the scene, he tells Rick to park the car somewhere, and he's aiming at the camera at every people with lights on. And ultimately, he just keeps going around asking questions to random strangers, but no one's willing to talk to him. And there's a man that he passes, and that man didn't want to talk to him. And so Lou is just standing there with the camera alone. He looks around and he sees that everyone is distracted one way or another, and he goes into the crime scene, the house. He enters the house and he's walking around into the kitchen to the fridge with the camera just up in his face, and he starts sorting out the pictures on the fridge with multiple bullet holes everywhere so that he can set up a scene and capture a very good footage. And he keeps recording and he looks over and there's a couple that's speaking to the cop outside.
Yeah.
But it appears that they didn't see him. And then he also see a mail and he takes it and left.
Like a letter?
Yeah, he saw a mail letter and then just takes it and then leave for some reason.
That's weird.
Back at the news channel, the editor, Frank, doesn't really like the clip since it looks like Lou just broke in. However, Nina likes Lou's work.
He's like, it's new, it's fresh, it's exciting.
Yes, no one has the footage, no one has the clip. And so Lou claimed that he heard someone say, come in, and so he decided to go into the house. But that's a lie.
That's chat.
With the help of Rick, Lou continues to capture horrible crime scenes. For example, a drunk mom that ran over a biker, a toddler that got stabbed, carjacking that went wrong. He's getting all these good scenes with the help of Rick. Now, remember, Rick is making $30 per night. And and Lou is getting $250 minimum?
Something happened to a guy in Manhattan recently. That had something to do with prices and one of them making a wrong.
Well, we wish that's how we went for this story.
So with all the hustle that Lou and Rick are putting in, Lou finally upgrades from his old blue car to a new clean red car, Dodge Challenger. A great red car, because why not have a car that stands out when you're capturing crime footages
And breaking into houses.
Yeah, that's such a smart move.
Yeah, obviously.
Yes. With the new car, Lou speeds off into the next car crash scene in a really good neighborhood. Again, this makes really good content since it's news breaking. And if it's in a good neighborhood, and if it's gruesome, you're gonna get viewers. You're gonna get attention. You're gonna spark conversation.
You're gonna get money.
So Lou gets into the scene, and he tries talking to the person who's on a phone with the 911, but the person who's talking to the cop is anxious, and he's not responding to Lou. And so Lou runs to the crime scene, and he decided that the crime scene is not good enough for him. He sees, it's not good enough for him. There's a car that got flipped, I think. And so he decides to run to the car, pull the dead person out from the car, and angles the dead person so that he can get a better footage.
What the fuck?
Yeah. And he slowly records the scene while cops are pulling up behind him. But he doesn't get caught. Tampering with evidence, but oh well.
Yeah, it's just a touch,
Yeah, anyways, he gets back to the station, and after collecting his check from Nina, he attempts to ask Nina on a date to a Mexican restaurant. And Nina notices that there's a red spot marks on his shirt and asks if it's blood. He disregards her question and continues asking Nina on a date. Nina turns him down again, saying that she doesn't date people from work, and she's much older than him, so she can't. However, Nina ends up at dinner with Lou. And so Lou's complimenting her, and he's kind of off-putting the way he says stuff. An example is that he said to Nina, I know you're from Philadelphia. And she asks, how he knows that. And so he says, well, I read about you online. I read everything about you. I know everything about you. And he's watched all of her news report in the past. So he know everything about her, what she's done, what she said, everything. And Lou continues to talk about his goal to run a successful future business that he has. And Nina said that she only came out to dinner with him professionally and there was no personal intent. However, Lou continues talking, just disregarding what she says, and he's talking about how his footages are in demand and how Nina needs to be in a relationship with him. Nina needs him since he's got the potential to boost her rating. Side note, Nina is a director for a news station that has the lowest rating, so she needs good footages to increase her ratings. Nina is flabbergasted because at this point, Lou is flipping the script and he's threatening her. He's unfazed after what he just says and continues eating his food. Lou is pretty much threatening Nina that she needs to sleep with him or else he's going to stop selling his footages to her and sell it to other news station. But he knows that Nina needs his footages because they are one of the best, because they dig into the crime scenes. They get the crime scenes. And Nina's like, are you kidding me? Are you seriously doing this? And then pretty much Lou is manipulating her into believing that friends should sleep with each other and should help each other out in ways like that.
This movie just took a turn from where I thought it was going.
Yeah. Rick and Lou are driving to the next station after that. Again, there's tension from the first scene, and tensions continues to rise between them. Rick wants a raise, and he's explaining to Lou that he's living in a garage and he's busting his ass every night to help Lou while only making $30 per night. And Lou's saying that it's based on performance, and he's pretty much not seeing Rick give the performance to him. And so Lou is speaking to Rick with attitudes and demand. Every time that they go on to scenes, he's always telling Rick to do that, to do this, and he's always not happy with how Rick is performing. To the next scene, Lou loses an opportunity to catch a plane crash, and again, another cameraman beats him to it. This time, Nina is also pissed at Lou since he didn't get the good footage, and he missed the opportunity, and this, again, pisses Lou off, and he's not getting what he wants. Later on that night, Lou is racing to the next crime scene with Rick, and he pulls out a lane to cut the person in front of him. He's driving really, really fast at a very dangerous rate, putting both Rick and his life at risk because on the other side of the lane is a person driving towards them.
He's driving the wrong way down the highway?
Yeah, so it's not a highway. It's like a hill-ish. So it's a two lane, one going the other way. And there's a car in front of him, and he's trying to get to the next scene. So he pulls out from that lane into an illegal lane, which is the left lane, and he's speeding past, and Rick sees another car coming towards them. However, they were able to get back into their appropriate lane after. But Rick is kind of pissed because, again, they just put their life in danger for our footage.
And the life of whoever was in that other car.
Exactly. And the person that they were trying to pass to. They get to the crime scene, and he sees that it's the other cameraman, Joe. That's his name. It's his competitor. Apparently, Joe had hit a tree, and then he sees medics putting Joe on a stretcher, and they're taking him into the ambulance car. And Rick says that it feels wrong to record Joe since he's part of the team. He's part of the footage team.
Yeah,
like they do the same thing.
A professional courtesy.
Lou does not care. Lou turns to Rick and says, well, he's not anymore, so it's okay. Yeah. And he continues recording Joe. Lou does not care because just a couple of days ago, Joe had gone up to Lou and had tried to get Lou to join his team. And Lou is pissed because he's not getting the good rates and he has no intent to join him. And so he's pissed because Joe is beating him to other scenes like the plane crash scenes.
Yeah.
And he doesn't like competitors. So he decided to fuck with Joe's car, which ultimately led Joe to hitting a tree.
So he calls that trash.
Maybe. It could be interpreted that way because he did go under Joe's van and fuck with the mechanics or the engine. They speed to the next scene and into an active shooting scene. Lou sneaks into the property and tells Rick to stay in the car and watch the car. He hides behind bushes and records the whole scene. He heard a couple shootings and saw two men get into a van and drive off, and he's recording this whole thing behind the bush. And after they left, Lou ran out from the bush and starts walking towards the house. He's walking up the stairs and he sees a gun laying by the stairs and records it. Then he continues to walk into the house, recording everything. In the living room, there is a person laying dead with blood on them, on the sofa. He records that, he steps on something high, gets a good angle from above them, and then walks off to the next scene.
What the fuck?
So he's following a blood trail up the stairways and hears a lullaby. So he follows the lullaby and into the nursery room. And inside the nursery room, there's a crib. And he slowly walks with his camera, walks up into the crib, but there's no baby. And so he continues walking around the house, and there's another dead body that's laying face flat. He's going around the house, just exploring the whole house before the cops come, and he found another body again. He hears the cops coming, so he decided to start running back to his car before the cops come, and passes the cops on the way out. Now, Lou walks into the station after that, and Nina is pissed because she needs a good footage, and she hasn't had any since the plane crash. Lou is just staring at her. Finally, after Nina does all her spiel, he tells Nina that he wanted her to have a sense of need for him. He wanted Nina to need him, to want him. He says he got a footage for her.
Yeah.
And so the teams are looking over the clips that Lou caught, and they're debating if it's legal and if it's moral to be releasing the footages that Lou had just shot. Somebody says, well, it's legal as long as the identities are blurred out. So after the team leaves, Nina and Lou are discussing how much he wants for the footage. And so he says $100,000. And Nina is bargaining with him because that is way over the limit. Yeah. And so Lou takes the clips from Nina and says the lowest he'll go is $15,000. And Nina says she can't give that to him because that's the month's budget. And so he says he's gonna take the footage to another station since they have a better offer. He grabs Nina's attention by saying that the footages that he just caught have so many potentials, and he pretty much corners Nina into giving him what he wants, which is for her to introduce him to her colleagues and establishing connections to increase demands for him. He also makes it clear to Nina that when he says he wants to sleep with her, she's going to make it happen. Nina is flabbergasted, she's shocked, but she ultimately agrees to the deal because she really needs the footages. Let me remind you, Rick is getting $30 per night. Yeah. That's less than 1% that Rick is getting.
Huddles, that's like you getting only one kibble out of your...
No, she gets half a kibble.
That's like you getting half a kibble.
Yeah, that's insane. The next day, Lou is watching the news about the crime scene when he hears a knock on the door. He opens it up and there's two detectives there. He's not shocked, he's not scared, he invites them in. Detectives are talking to him and they're just looking around his apartments and they ask what he saw. And he says that he went in because he saw alarm blarings and he wanted to help whoever was in there, so he decided to go in. And so the detectives are suspicious. They ask him for a copy of the footages and he says that he didn't have any footages of the man nor their faces. And he gives them the footages. But what he did was he cut off the first scene where the men faces and the license plates are there. He only gives the detectives these scenes at nighttime. Lou is explaining to Rick that they're going to track down the murderer themselves. Lou does track them down by their license plates, and he explained to Rick that, again, he had cut off the scene where he had those information and gave the rest to the detective. And he's gaslighting Rick that this is an opportunity to allow the company to expand to the next level because he wants Rick to go with him to the scene. And he also says that Rick is showing a great performance and he loves seeing him be innovative and passionate about his job. Therefore, because of this great performance, Rick is getting promoted to executive vice president.
Damn, does he get a raise with that?
That's what Rick asks. And so Lou says, of course, Rick, you are getting a raise with that. Pick a number. And so Rick is stuttering. He's shocked because he wasn't expecting this. And so he's thinking, and he says, well, like $75. And so Lou's like, that's a deal. And then Rick is like, whoa, he said that way too quick. And so Rick asks, wait, could I have asked for a higher number? Yeah, you could have, but the deal's already closed. So you can't ask for a higher raise.
Fuck?
Rick is shocked. He feels defeated. And they're driving to the next scene. And Rick is insisting that he wants more money because he's, again, busting
his ass.
Yes. And Lou's going on a tangent about how the business works, about how businesses works in general. And he's like doing all the smart talks, sweet talk to Rick, trying to make Rick look dumb. And Rick says that what they're doing is highly illegal and he's not getting much for keeping information and doing illegal stuff with Lou. And so Lou says that there's no room for negotiation, but he will let Rick get his fair portion. Rick is finally happy, and Rick kind of flips the scripts on Lou and tells him that he should be treating people like actual people, and he doesn't get to tell people what to do. He shouldn't be bossing them around. They finally get to the scene. They're watching the culprit, and they park right behind him, 20 feet max away. And so Rick is scared, and he's saying that they're way too close, and this could be a trap for them. Lou doesn't listen. Finally, they see a man walks out of the house and get into his car. They follow him to the gas station. They see that the car is going to the Chinese restaurant. Once the guys are at the Chinese restaurant, Lou parks. He calls the cops and tells them that the suspects are at the Chinese restaurant and they need to come because they have a gun on them. Lou ends the call before the emergency services could get more information from him. After he ends the call, he turns his radio scanner on and listens to the police scanner about the report he just made. He then directs Rick to get out of the car and get a second angle from down the street with the previous camera that he had. And Rick doesn't want to do that because he knows that there's a bigger danger if he gets out of the car. But Lou's telling Rick that he himself is in a bigger danger since he's going to be in the car and he's going to be stuck. At the same time, Rick is also getting anxious because the men are armed and they're also putting other people in danger because he just called the cops on them. So if anything happens...
So it's probably going to be a shootout.
Yeah, that could happen. Anyways, Lou doesn't care. He threatens Rick with physical assault. He says, I can hurt you right now. And so Rick sighs in disbelief. He decides to get out of the car and grabs the camera and walks down the street. Lou sees a cop car pull up and park near the restaurant with no alarms blaring. Two cops walk out from the car and walks into the restaurant. The culprits sees the cops coming in, but the cops doesn't seem to know what's going on. They just go up to the cashier and order something. The culprits are looking at the cops. One of them pulls out a gun from under the table and starts loading it. Another cop car pulls up and two more cops enters the restaurants. Before they could enter all the way, one of the culprits starts shooting at one of the cops, and the cops shoots back. They shot one of the men, but the other man escapes after being shot in the arm. The person who escaped gets into his car and drives off. One other cop gets into his car and chases the man. Rick runs back to Lou, gets into the car, and Lou tells Rick to start filming the pursuit because they're going to chase after the cop who's chasing after the culprit. They're speeding, and the cops in front of him gets hit intersection by another car. So they see one cop down, but they're just speeding up to the culprit's car and following that black van. Yeah. Another cops pull up in front of the van. The van is hitting the cop car. The cop car ultimately rolls over, so does the van. At this point, there's a cop car that's flipped over, and there's the van that's flipped over. Lou does a quick stop and gets out of the car. He steps back into the cop car. Lou's staring into the van from the from the cop car and he screams over to Rick, "He's dead. Get the shot." Rick is running over with the other camera and Lou is guiding Rick on what to do with this scene. Rick is listening to Lou. Rick turns the flashes on, flashes into the camera. Once he was able to focus, he sees the man look up at the horrible state and pulls out the gun and shoots Rick.
What the fuck?
Rick falls to the ground and Lou walks over to Rick with his camera. Rick's looking up at Lou. He's powerless and he says, "You saw him. You knew." Lou continues recording him and says he can't jeopardize his company's success to retain an employee. Rick took Lou's bargaining opportunity, bargaining power. Because he did that, Rick could do it again in the future, and so he can't sacrifice. He can't risk that in the future. Anyways, Lou drives back to the channel station. He's greeting everyone at the station by their name, and he's happy-go-lucky. Yeah. And he's acting like nothing happened. And after watching the footages, Nina asked if that was his partner and said that she's amazed at him. The detective shows up and asks for the footages, and Nina is saying that it's private property because they bought it already, so they can't take it. Lou is still at the station, so they take Lou in for an investigation. However, he is let go because there is not enough evidence. So Lou walks out a free man, and he's smiling at them while he walks out, while he's answering questions. Finally, Lou does become a successful businessman that he aspires to be. He hires a new team of 3 interns, and he assures them that he will never ask them to do anything he wouldn't do himself.
I was expecting there to be more before the end of the movie.
No, it's a bittersweet ending. It's not even sweet, it's just bitter ending.
And what's this movie called, by the way?
Nightcrawler.
Okay.
You're gonna watch it?
I might.
It's a pretty interesting movie. It stars Jake Gyllenhaal.
Oh, that dude.
Yeah. He's a pretty good...
Yeah. A villain?
Yeah.
He was a villain in Spider-Man Far From Home, right?
Yep. This movie is inspired by The Naked City, which is a photo book by Arthur Fleck. The director was interested about making a movie about criminal perspective, and so he decided to make this movie. And so there's debate about this movie. Some people say that this movie is a great way to show that horrible people will get away with things they do and succeed. Another person added that it's also highlighting a point of creating an environment where evil behaviors are often rewarded and people get surprised when that happens. And then there's another perspective that states that Lou is always going to be alone because of his behavior. But then again, I don't think he cares.
Yeah.
So
he doesn't seem to really mind that much.
Because if he wants somebody to occupy him, he's going to get that.
Yeah.
He's going to force it to happen, like with Nina. According to an article that I read, it states that this movie is about entitlement since he got all the traits that allows him to be successful. And a lot of people compare this movie to another movie called Taxi Driver.
I feel like I've heard of that one.
It's about a U.S. Marine who served in Vietnam and struggles to connect with people, and then his life changes when he spots a 12-year-old worker. But at the end, we don't know what's real and what's not after. I don't know how that is similar.
Yeah, I'm not sure how those plots tie together, but...
Yeah. However, overall, I think this movie is a great depiction of important topics like news manipulation, entitlement, sociopath, and other dark topics that a lot of movies like to not talk about. That is all for today's review. I honestly thought this was a pretty good movie.
I mean, it sounds like it was pretty good.
It's really good. You don't get the typical ending that you do with a lot of movies, so highly recommend it. That is all for today's video. If you guys like it, give it a like.
And subscribe!
Alrighty. Bye!
Bye!